the black man was the first. We don't record of this black man. We have a record of the birth of others except the black man. There is no birth record of the black man. He is the original or aboriginal man of the earth. And we don't have any, we say, the dated of this man's beginning of his civilization and whereabout. Because we once was with the moon, or the moon and the earth was together once upon a time, and cannot be a specific spot pointed out where that it actually took place of his building of civilization. But we do know, according to the teachings of Almighty God, Allah to me, that once upon a time that we had nothing in the universe but the sun. And that after that, why, then they made a star. And from stars to stars and stars and stars. And they saw that the star was essential to our well-being. And from that we began to make planets. And there is between the creation of the sun and the earth 6 trillion years between the two. And it is often referred to that the universe was made or created in the 3 stages, or we say 3 divisions of it. 2 trillion years to each. And the present moon that we have, which is now 66 trillion years old itself, or rather being in the position that it's in. It originally was about 36,000 miles from this part, or rather, when she was taken from this part. It was drawn out of the orbit of that, at that time, 36,000 miles, and that part that we are looking at today, it dropped from the original orbit 12,000 miles, lost all its water on this part. That's why she's without water. It's due to the explosion. At that time, 66 trillion years ago, she lost her water by turning over. She turned all over, and the water dropped on this part. And that gives us then 3/4 of our surface covered in water, because we have the water from that part. The original man did that. He was the man, rather we say a god, a scientist, that brought about that explosion due to his dissatisfaction of not being able to have all the people he liked, and having them speaking the same dialect. So he got angry because he could make them speak the same dialect all the way around, as our planet at that time was something better than 10,000 miles in diameter, while it's around 8,000 now, near. And he getting vexed with his own wisdom, unable to do with the people what he wanted to do with them. He goes then and tries to destroy us. His aim was not to make a moon, a satellite for our planet. We had at that time, according to the teachings of God to me, Mars for our moon. It served as our moon at that time. What I mean, before ever this scientist tried to destroy us. And since he was unable to destroy us, we was lucky to come with this part. The people on the other part was destroyed, but we was lucky to come with this part. And we were called at that time the Aboriginal people, and we are the Aboriginal people today. And in the 6 trillion years before that time, in the creation of light and water, it was the black man.
And the black man has no beginning and no end.
No beginning, no end. And you can't find no history that will give you the birth of the black man. He has always been.
Well, then, since we have no beginning or no end for the black man, no birth, how do you explain, and what is your doctrine on the origin of the Caucasian race?
Well, the Caucasian race came about, as they are called, white people. And they were white people. It was made that. Caucasian is a name given to the quality of the man. Means original, weak bone and stale face. The person have a stale color, and his bones are weak, and the color Caucasian. But actually, he was made white. This was brought about, we would consider just recently, to talking into billions and trillions of years. The Caucasian race, their birth is just here of today almost. That took place 6,000 years ago. A black man, he is the father of the Caucasian race. His name was Yaqub. They call him Jacob in English, but Arabic is Yaqub. He discovered in the germ of the black man that there were two people. And that in studying the germ, he learned to divide the germ. And he said, if I can take the germ now, this brown one, and separate it from the dark one, I can make this brown germ here rule the black germ until the black germ produces one that is greater than I. And he, being a very wise scientist, he knew what was coming in the future. So he says, my man will live for 6,000 years, and he will rule his father. And after that, he says, then his brother will come from the east, and he will eat my man up after 6,000 years. So this man discovered this, as I first said, according to the teachings of Almighty God to me, by the germ. And it still can be proven today that the black man have two people in it. So this man discovered this, as I first said, according to the teachings of Almighty God to me, by the germ. And it still can be proven today that the black man have two people in it.
How, sir?
Yes, sir. You have to.
How is this? How can this be proved?
and by the joint. The joint you have here, take for an instance, well, let me come to the surface first. You go to the darkest people that you can find in Africa, where that they has never been touched by Caucasian people. And you will find that one will be a little shader browner than the other. And this man set up a birth control law to take that browner one and marry the browner one on to the browner one and kill off the black. And he kept this going for 600 years. First he had a little brown race of people after 200 years. And the next 200 years he had a little yellow race of people, or red race we say. And the next 200 years he had a pale white.
Method of birth control.
Yes, he killed the black baby and saved the brown one. Or killed the brown one, saved the brown one. Killed the brown one and saved the yellow one. You see, the yellow one saved that until he run it into his last stage. And the last stage is white. And that can be done today. It is not nothing that is a mystery, impossible. It can be done today. But I don't think that they want any more grafting. I think they about got enough of that. Yes, and black is the original. He's the father of them all.
All these other races are derivatives of the black race.
That's right. That's right.
There was something that was mentioned in Volume 2 of the Supreme Wisdom about some of the physical attributes of the Negro, of the black man. Kinky hair, for example. And there was some cite made as to a scientist who had withdrawn himself from his people. Would you explain that?
Yes, that happened 50,000 years ago, according to the teachings of Allah to me, which I was with him for 3 years, night and day. I didn't do anything, and he didn't allow me to do anything. He taught me for 3 years, night and day, 7 days a week. I mean, I was confined. I was jailed almost. I had no chance to do anything but just to listen to him.
And learn.
And so, that's right. And he would carry me out of the city sometimes in his little Chevrolet coupe. And we would sit out there sometime 2 or 3 hours at night, and he would talk to me about the stars and planets and how long this was making and whatnot. And so this scientist, 50,000 years ago, as they are today, they always meet together and discuss, you know, major things that is going to take place. And each one, you know, passes his own judgment of, we say, vote on whether or not it should be done. So this man, he wanted to, his name was Shabazz. He wanted to make a people different from what we had at that time, and he wanted people that could live in the jungles of East Asia and be able to withstand the hot sun and the wild beasts, anything. He wanted to make a tough man. That don't mean now we was not black now. We was black right on. But we was more delicate, you know, and tender than the man that he produced. So he says to the 11 scientists, if you agree with me, he says, we can produce the people to conquer the jungles of East Asia, as they call it Africa today. And he said we could conquer this part of our planet with this type of people. So he gave them the description and the method how to go about it. And he went and waited on answers, and they never would agree with him. And finally, he said he will not agree with the other 11. He would take his family himself and go and live there and prove to them that he could produce a people that would conquer the jungles of East Asia. And that's where it come in.
Was this the origin then of the tribe of Shabazz?
Yes, sir. That's the origin of it.
Something you speak very frequently of is self-knowledge. Now, what does this mean to you?
Self-knowledge is what I am saying now. This is self-knowledge. We have never had the knowledge of ourselves since that we were brought here for slave purposes. We didn't know anything about ourselves. Our grandparents and parents, many of them today who have not heard the ancient history of their people, don't know who they are. And we say, we teach him the knowledge of himself, meaning that he don't know himself. Our people don't know themselves, the average one, because he cannot give any history of himself only from the time that he was put here in the cotton fields of the South. And that history he gotten from his slave master. He know nothing beyond. And this is to give him a knowledge of his fathers and the origin of everything except himself. He cannot get the origin of himself. That would be given to him his birthright. And therefore, you can't give him the origin of himself because you can't give him the birth. Got no birth. He's, we could say that, as God said to me, when I asked him, was not there a beginning? We often, wrangling over the beginning. How did the atom of life begin in the universe? That is such wisdom that we don't like to talk on, because you bound to different from me and I'm going to different from you, because there is no date for it, and to say how it come in action, taking on activity, we don't like to go in, because it's just too much. And I wouldn't like for you to ask me further on that, mind, because I don't like to talk on it. It gives you too much talk. You've got to go so far. It's too much to talk on. If one would open up such truth as the truth of God to the people, I do think that he's within his rights to stay out of the sight of the people until he has won everything to himself, as the Bible referred for us to it like this, that he's something like a king looking for a kingdom, and that he go and he visit the people, and then he leaves the people and goes away and wait until the time when that he can secure the kingdom. Then he returns to the people that he had made himself manifest to. So I think that is a pretty good answer. Yes.
According to what Master Farad Muhammad taught me on the race question, the origin of the races, in the beginning of the races, they numbered around 4. And from these 4 races of people, they has produced many different types of people. But they are not, say, independent in their beginning. They came from one. We say today we have lots of various colored people all over the earth, from, we say, from brown to white. We are not all the same color due to intermixing with such colors as black, brown, yellow, and red and white. This has produced many other various colors. And the origin of it, according to the teachings of Master Farad Muhammad, to me, was from a scientist, a God. We see him. We see him as a God. Back 6,000 years ago, started we say a scientific, or I should say, a master grafting work on the human being to produce a new civilization, a new race of people from the original race of people, or aboriginal people. This man, Yaqub, who discovered in the dream of the black man that he had 2 people in him, and that he had learned through study and experimenting on germs that this second germ could produce a powerful people that would be able to rule that which they came from. For around 6,000 years, until the father, or the aboriginal, produces one superior to his man. And that was this, that he taken through experimental work on the germ of man, a people of what we call today a white race. But before he produced it, that white race, he produced it a brown race. He produced it a yellow race, and so on. There is his first grafting from the black man according to the teachings of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom we see him and know him today as being God in person. That this grafting, in its first stage, he had a brown race of people from a black people. And it taken him, according to the teachings of God, 200 years to produce that brown race. And he kept up the process of killing off the browner or the darker one and marrying the lighter one onto the lighter one. For another 200 years, he had a yellow race of people. And in this length of time, these brown people were spreading over the area, I would say migrating over the earth to find them a home to themselves. And so when the yellow race was produced, he started too, migrating over the earth. And from the yellow race, about 200 years, this grafting kept in process. There was on this same outlet, well, it was an outlet he was on, according to the teachings of Almighty God to me, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever. At that time, 200 years, keeping up birth control law. This is what he established. He established it on this islet, and there was his lab that he was working, we call it a human lab, to produce his man. And from this yellow race, he had a white race 200 years later from them. And this was the end of his work. This was the man he was trying to get to. That was our white race. And that made it, in the total time of his grafting out of black, white, 600 years. And this figure tallies with the Bible's teaching of the man being created in 6 days. This is this days here you have means 100 years each, 600 years. And this also tallies with the creation of the universe. That's the whole entire universe, according to the Quran, was also created in 6 periods of time. And so Mr. Yaqub, the mighty scientist of that time, he produced his man on 6, because it did tally with the creation of the universe, and it was to this number that he could not further his work. And they would be masters, gods, to rule the earth and the people, everything of life, for 6,000 years. And at the end of 6,000 years, the Aboriginal people will have at that time produced another one, mightier than Yaqub in wisdom and knowledge. And he would be equal with that one that created the heavens and the earth. And he would have the power and the infinitive wisdom to make his word be as the first one. And this is the man we have before us today, to whom praise is due. Master Farad Muhammad is that man that have the wisdom or the knowledge, excuse me, of how the creation took place in the first. And this is the man we have before us today, to whom praise is due. Master Farad Muhammad is that man that have the wisdom or the knowledge, excuse me, of how the creation took place in the first place. That's what I mean, the creation of the universe, how it took place, and how life and everything began, down to 6,000 years of Mr. Yaqub and his world, and the knowledge of the world to come, of which he himself is the God of. He's the God of the next world. He's planting it now. And that world that he will set up, we see now gradually merging in, will be forever. There will be no change in that one, because, well, the scientists just don't see through the future any other change, and they don't have too much knowledge of his change, as he has not let go yet He brought me up pretty close, but he has not as yet opened up as we have in Bible and Quran. I have not seen and I have not heard, and it has not entered into the heart of us what that he will do. But we getting little inklings now. We are right in his time. And we do know that he's going to bring about a complete change. As I study now for 33 years after his coming, I have learned my own self from study of his words, what he said to me. That it won't be a world like we see today, nothing of the kind, not even to the Orthodox Muslim. Their world will not even be considered in his world. As the master scientist of God 6,000 years ago, Mr. Yaqub, he did not make this world, your world, on the basis of our world. We have a complete new world and a new people in you. So will the great Mahdi, Master Farad Muhammad, he will also build a new world and a new people. And he did tell me that how that we would start taking a change in a new people. Now, just exactly what we will look like, I'm not too sure of that, but I do believe that he's going right back at the origin, but he's going to make a better people. What I mean to say, a people that will be more stronger physically, and they will be taught in such way that they can live much longer. Individual will live probably 1,000 or more years, and teaching something about the history, not the history, but about the people on Mars. He often would refer to me that just think of them living 1,200 of our Earth years. He says, and we die in less than 100 years. It gives me an idea that he wants to make a people that will live 1,000 or more years.